Hello, I'm Pearl Howie, and welcome to this episode of Pearl Escape's Fear of Success, which you might be watching on YouTube or you might be listening to on the podcast. My guest today is an extraordinary woman, Sam James, who I'm very proud to have known, I think, for about 6 years now.
Yeah,
And I'm going to let her talk more, and we're going to talk in detail about all the great work that she has been doing for even before I knew you for a very long time, but particularly during lockdown, what a huge difference that she has made in the fitness world and in I want to call it the equality world. And I just also wanted to say a kind of sensitivity triggering announcement, really, because we will be talking about some issues to do with discrimination in particularly for people with disabilities. And just to say, if we do talk about issues that we've experienced, um, in terms of the people that we know or personally, um, obviously we're talking about it from the point of view of trying to move to a completely equal environment. And obviously it can be upsetting for certain people if we're talking about issues, but just to know where we're coming from with that. Did I say it right, Sam?
yes.
Well, so one of the many reasons that I wanted to talk to you today is you are a finalist in, let me get this right, the National Community Fitness Awards, right?
Yes, that's right. So
Uh,
I'm a finalist in the Inclusive Award category for all the work that I do, not only with disabled people, but older people, those with like poor socio-economic backgrounds, families that might need a little bit more help to get them like active with a healthier lifestyle.
wow. Yeah. And when Sam posted a little bit about, being nominated and becoming a finalist for this award, um, she had a list of all the reasons they had selected her. And it just ran on and on. And it was just mind blowing because I've known you for a while. And I will say as well that I think we connected a little bit more right at the beginning of lockdown again, because we've always talked about teaching people with disabilities, because also I did that quite a lot in my practice a few years ago. Um, and we connected really about, how can we possibly support people during this time. And you particularly, I was going from like a static start in a way because I wasn't actively teaching, whereas you were working a huge amount in the community, in schools, in everything. And so you were immediately hit so hard by everything in lockdown. And I'm just so, having had that little interaction with you at the beginning a few months ago, to this incredible list of all the things that you've been doing. I mean, how did you pick yourself up? Because you were kind of being hit from all sides in terms of the gyms, the schools, everything.
Yeah.
How did you pick yourself up and pivot, as they keep saying?
Well, so for me, I actually was on holiday just before lockdown, so I came back. I was in Cuba, so I came back into lockdown. And while I was in Cuba, those that don't know, Cuba is a country where you don't know what's going on outside of Cuba because there's not a lot of there's no foreign TV there. So, and there is a lack of when you stay in local hotels, you have no TV, and the internet is controlled by the government. So you're like, it can be on for 10 minutes and then be switched off. So you have no access to anything outside the island. So we got back on the plane to come back. We were at the last scheduled flight back, and when we were on the plane, the pilot just said, "You're you're landing into a different UK to what you left. You won't recognise it." So I come back, and I was like looking at Facebook, going, all these instructors like telling online stuff, and everything just hit me. The fact that I was now working from home in my day job, and the fact that I had virtually no classes, you guys just like, oh my god, what am I going to do? And a lot of my work 50% of my work is gone straight away because I go into SEN schools, I go into care homes, I go into disability day provisions. They were all obviously closed, and I even had some new care homes that I was going into to do trial sessions, and it's all stopped. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because that's a lot of my money is dropped overnight. And also, I only do 2 community classes a week, so the rest are gym-based ones, and I didn't have all their ladies that because when you're teaching gyms, you just go in, you teach, you go again. You don't always have all their contact details. So it's trying to find contact with the ladies that I was teaching as well. And I knew I had to go online, but I knew I couldn't do everything online because it was like, obviously I found seated fitness hard because it's getting the right camera angle, and obviously seeing the whole body, like head and feet in the room that I got to teach in, it wasn't possible. Then I went food shopping, I saw one of my seated ladies and they said that they didn't want to go online. They just didn't want the hassle. So that took that decision out for me, that I wouldn't do a seated class. But I did some pre-recorded ones on Sim Studio, so that some of my guys that got physical disabilities that are younger could access them in their own time.
For 1 second to just clarify a few things, because just for listeners who don't know, SEN is special education needs.
Yes.
Right. And for people who don't know a lot about the fitness world, the community classes are, where you rent a hall, or so you are your own boss, you run your class, and you tend to have more interaction. And as you say, with the gym, a lot of your communication is through the gym, so people can't necessarily contact you or anything like that. And just looking at the Zen Studio again, that's a platform that Zumba have developed in response to lockdown, which is absolutely fantastic that you've done that. And like you said, to be able to program a seated class, you get a wiggle room, so you can upload a pre-recorded class for people to watch within about 5 hours, which is fantastic. I actually did the same thing with my seated class. So it's kind of like, it's recorded and it's great. Then if you know anybody who needs it and somebody asks for it, you go, right, yeah, there you go, you can have it anytime. You can deliver that to you. It was like, and there were some really useful things that came along, as you say. But there you were, and I say, trying to get in touch with, the people who, you hoped would come online. And it was a point that you made just earlier. You said that it's very interesting when you mentioned that those with physical disabilities seem to find it easier, or with your practice, seem to find it easier to move online, whereas those with learning disabilities, they didn't, and we were just discussing before why that might be. And what do you think?
It could be a multiple of issues. It could be that sometimes they have older parents, they could be a bit technophobe, or they might not have the right technology to get online. It could be the fact that they might not be allowed online because of the circumstances behind that individual. They could have special orders in place. And I think sometimes it's not knowing how secure the platform is that you're using, because let's take Zoom. There's been security issues regarding Zoom, but once you're in the meeting, you can make it very secure. You can lock the room so that no one else can get into that meeting. And, and it's not, you don't have to, unless you actually press record, it's not recorded, so that once you leave that meeting, there's no record of it anywhere. I think it's just a lack of education, maybe, out there regarding the platforms, the different platforms. Not just Zoom, you've got Zoom, Skype, Teams, and so on. And it's just, I think that a lot of people don't understand the actual mechanics behind it, so to speak.
Definitely. And like you say, I think I think one of the issues I found was because I was reaching out to care homes and people like that, you know, and I did not get any response at all.
I didn't either.
Yeah, but you know, it was very much with the knowledge that the people who were working, you know, the people who were managing care homes were dealing with such a huge, you know, just in impossible situations and trying to just get through the day. And I suppose that's a difficult thing, you know, when you have a certain skill and you know that you can support people, but it's kind of like, probably it's difficult because you know how much it can help, but at the same time it's not what's needed in that immediate, in that, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
And for them, it's the least, it comes at the bottom of their priorities. They have, you know, and obviously COVID was quite high in care homes. Most of the deaths came from care homes. So they had a lot of staff obviously catching it and off, so they're quite short staffed. So their main issues were obviously staffing and keeping the residents healthy.
Absolutely.
But not thinking about the exercise benefits about keeping them healthy. So
I mean, I think absolutely it's really worth kind of just taking a minute and once again realizing, you know, I think the difficult. I actually got an email from the local council where I live, you know, and they'd done a survey, a customer survey, about how, you know, everybody was doing in lockdown and what their problems were, and then they reported back and they were saying, oh, you know, the top activities that people were doing and gardening and social media and this kind of thing. I was thinking, yes, but that's because you've asked the people who've got email, and you haven't asked the people who are not online or the people who are struggling to get online. And I know this sounds very critical and I don't want it to be. I think it's just one of those things that when I was teaching, you know, and I taught a lot of Zumba Gold, and every time we did something with another group, like say, for example, we did the London 2012 class, you know, and so I would run a Zumba Gold class with the group that was doing all the other, what do you call it? Big dance and London Olympiad, all these things. Yeah. And so my guys would, you know, my class members would come and we would come and do a class, and they had like a sign-in sheet, you know, and it would be name, email address, all this, you know, and they would come up to me and they would say, you know, the managers would come and go, oh, your guys can't fill in the sheet properly. They're not putting their email address down. They won't put their mobile phone address number down. I'm going, they don't have email. You know, this is not how I connect with, you know, I'm very lucky that a lot of my class members do have email, and a lot of them done really well at getting on Zoom. But it's you know, like you say, for people with learning disabilities, or for people who are of a certain age or who don't have the technology. I mean, you and I both adapted to teaching online, and all the gear that we didn't have, which was like a light or a microphone or this, you went on Amazon and tried to find it. It wasn't there.
Exactly. Or the price went up, so you were like trying to get out, say, in it still like a microphone so that people could hear me better. But instead of being like 40 quid, it's like 200 quid. And it's like, I'm not spending 200 quid because I'm not going to get that back.
I know. And it's really funny because my grandma has finally decided to get a smartphone. You know, and I see older people out for walk, and they've still got a flip phone. You know, flip phones are still very much on sale in shops, in mobile phone shops, because they know that older people just want a very simple phone.
Yeah.
Now, she has finally, because of COVID, decided to get a smartphone so that she can actually see photos and videos of the family, things like that. And she finally got that a couple of days ago. Week one is how to answer a phone call on a smartphone. You know, we sat down and we did that yesterday. You know, she's already on to week 2. I'm very proud of my grandma. She's on to week 2, which is sending a text message.
That's good.
It's really good. It's really good. But there's this, I get annoyed because she's still not going to be on email. And I said to her, you're doing really well, Grandma, because a lot of people of your age have got a landline and they don't have a mobile phone.
Yeah.
And they don't have a smartphone. And they don't have any data, and they don't have any internet connection.
They don't know what data is, they don't know what Wi-Fi is. They probably haven't even got a laptop. No. You know what I mean? They've probably got a big old standard, you know, Oh, big
No, they don't
computer.
have a computer. They don't have anything. And it's like, I think the thing is, it's annoying, you know, when you've spent time like that, when you see, you know, councils releasing research and they forget that anybody who wants to utilize certain services, unless there's a phone line, unless there's a helpline, somebody who's older or who isn't internet savvy is going to have to get a carer to help them.
Yeah.
And those carers may not be able to go and visit them at the moment if it's not, you know, if it's not essential. It's, you know, if they're older or ill enough that they need to have their food shopping delivered, then you can kind of do it at the same time. But if not, it's incredibly difficult. Sorry, I'm getting
no, and it's true, because I went on a webinar with London Sport, and it's about disability and inclusion of other areas, and they mentioned about older people and the access to technology, and one company said that they actually got the contact details for their family members, like the email, so they could update, say, the daughter of the parents, then the mum could then update them on what was going on.
Sure.
Yeah, that is another way around it, but then they would need then the family members have got to be tech savvy as well.
Yeah.
You know, and always about posting hard stuff through the door, because that's how that generation works. They work the old school way of proper, like what I call pen and paper.
Yeah, and I just think it's so important that we're adapting, and that's great, you know, and we're doing so much, but we mustn't forget, we must never forget that there are still so many people who are struggling.
Yeah,
they are not posting on social media, you know, and they will be, unfortunately. That thing is, if we're only paying attention to surveys that are online, that's, you know, they're being silenced.
Exactly. I always say to people that if you see like a friend and they go really quiet on Facebook or any form of social media, check in with them, because that's a sign that there's something going on that they don't want you to know about. Or it could be anything from something's happened at a family member, it could be they have mental health issues, it could be anything.
Absolutely.
On that spectrum, and it's normally the ones that are quite bubbly, outgoing, that will suffer in silence and not talk about it. And it's just recognising the changes in those people to spot them, and not just think, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. It takes 2 seconds, got in a minute to do a text or a phone call, you know, just to check in on them.
Absolutely. And I think it's also, as well, it's very important to recognise that so many people have language difficulties.
Yeah.
And my brother particularly has language difficulties, and I always say he's one of the wisest people I know, but he you know, his communication is a lot of non-verbal, and a lot of, you know, it takes time and patience to have a conversation and to understand, you know, what he's saying, especially when he's upset, if he's stressed. And I feel for anybody who's kind of less supported, you know what I mean? Because he can work, you know, he's got family around him, but for people who have certain kinds of support that isn't there right now, or who can't just like walk into a shop and point at something, you know, there's a lot of people who manage and who cope in using quite simple techniques, and a lot of those simple strategies have kind of been taken away at the moment.
Exactly, and a lot of disabled people are suffering at the moment. They are, because they haven't normally, their normal network might not be working in the same way as before. Like the carers coming in might have to work a completely different way. They might not have as much time with them. They might be just coming in, doing, say, the personal care and going again, not having that 10-15 minute chat with them, making sure that they're okay. But also the fact that they might feel nervous about going out at the moment. I know a lot of adults are self-reporting at the moment are actually quite nervous about going out, because even though we're not officially at risk, we are at risk because we have a disability. And seeing a lot of people ignore the rules that the government have in place, it makes it more nervous for them to go out, because they see people not listening to the rules, or the fact that if they have got an issue where they can't wear a mask, they're scared they're going to get told off.
That is such an excellent point, and I think it's as you said before, it's you know, as you said before, it's about making assumptions about people, and there are people who, as you say, may actually have a difficulty putting on or taking off a mask. That actually, you know, and that might mean that they literally have, you know, they're having a physical disability.
I struggle to put on a mask. I can get it on this year, but for a bad hand, getting it on this year, it takes ages.
Yeah.
You know, and
do you know what I had during lockdown, right? This was at the time, you know, when you weren't supposed to sit down on a bench, you know, you're just supposed to go for your walk.
Yeah.
And I look like a very kind of normal, healthy, well person. And I had a back problem. And I had to sit down on a bench. And I remember very clearly saying hello to somebody. I went, hello. And they just gave me this, like, the dirtiest look you can imagine. It's like, what are you doing sitting down on that bench? And you're thinking, well, I'm not going to, you know, he didn't say it, and I wasn't going to explain it. But it, like you say, it's that thing that people look at you, and also if they're not paying attention, they might not realise that because I mean, your disability, because you have cerebral palsy, you can kind of see that you have a disability.
When I'm stood up or walking, it's very visible. When I'm sat down, you might not pick up on it.
Yeah, and that's.
But then there's loads of people that have hidden disabilities.
Exactly.
And it's those that get all the stigma. They get the backlash of people, because a lot of people are so self-absorbed that they don't think about that it could happen to anyone.
Well, yeah, and it's so funny, because my brother was saying this, because they've started going out for walks. He has various disabilities, and balance is a massive issue. And you know, if he has, you know, problems walking, and so he has to concentrate quite hard on walking. And you know, if you're not paying attention, you think this is an able-bodied person walking down the road. So an older person coming the other way might think, why don't you move out of their way? Or somebody in a wheelchair. Even I've actually had this with my brother. We were going, and there's a guy with a wheelchair, and it's like the guy with the wheelchair is obviously thinking, well, why don't you get out of my way? And it's like, well, actually, because it's really difficult for, you know, my brother to walk in a straight line sometimes.
Yeah, I had that. Like, I go out for walks, and I sort of try and say, if I'm on like a path closest to the houses, so I'm not near the road, it's safer. But then if someone comes my way, they try and expect you to move, and I'm like, actually, I can't move that quickly, because I gotta actually really think. I got to really concentrate on stepping to the side without falling over. With a wide berth, it's not safe for me to step on the road because I could get hit by a car. And there'll be other things, you know, like I got a client with a walker, and she's got very bad balance, and she said that people were expecting her to move out the way, and she goes, she hasn't got, it would take her triple the amount of time for her to move than for them to move, and also she can't just suddenly stop. If she suddenly stops, she'll go into them. And that's what people don't actually realise.
And of course, this is with people who've got either, you know, I would say, if somebody's paying attention, they could probably see that you had difficulty walking. If somebody was paying attention, they could probably see that my brother has difficulty walking. But somebody who's got a learning disability, or, I mean, let's face it, somebody who's even deaf or blind, you know, it may not be obvious that they have a disability. And yeah, I feel that it's very interesting that we need to kind of like keep reminding ourselves not to judge, you know. And I'm going to drop this in there because it's something that's been winding me up lately. Is my brother was stopped by the police for walking funny, you know. And this is
They
like,
think he's drunk.
no, well, it was the middle of the day.
I get that.
But it was I think because he's a guy, maybe, I don't know, but there's a kind of thing, if you're walking funny, you're suspicious, you know. And I think we've seen, you know, other incidents like that, and it's yeah, you know, I think the thing is, when you talk about, and I really want to come and dive into what you've been doing in fitness as well, but I think it's kind of interesting to talk about these things, because it's like, it's, I think for people who don't you know, have friends or family who are disabled, it's, if you don't have that experience and that kind of wealth of friends and family, or if you're not, you know, you haven't had to deal with disability yourself, it's sometimes easy to forget that people are really challenged just going for a walk around the block.
See, what I do is when I do disability training, what I tell able-bodied people is to imagine yourself waking up in bed. You've got a wheelchair next to you and you can't use your legs. So how are you, one, going to get out of bed? How are you going to get into that chair? How are you going to shower? How are you going to do everything you normally do? And how are you going to go to work? So your normal job that you were doing the day before, can you do it? Can you actually access the building? And would you be able to do it exactly the same way? And it really makes people think, because then they're like, oh, they don't actually realise how hard it is just to get out of bed, to actually get in a shower, to actually get dressed, and so on. And it really makes people really stop and think about that, how lucky they are,
Yeah.
and how they can go about without thinking. They can just go out quickly, pop down the shop, whereas not everyone can just pop down the shop.
So what's it like? What was it like for you as a disabled person going to the gym, and why did you decide to become a fitness instructor?
So, well, I remember, like, my mum's always, no, I can't, I read it out now. Yeah, my mum's always been a member of the gym. She always took me and my brother. My brother used to swim, and then I went to copy him. But then I went to uni, and obviously I got lost contact with the whole fitness thing, as you do when you're like 18, 19, 20. And it's about 27, my GP, I get getting tighter with my GP. The doctor recommended that I should start doing exercise. I tried different gyms, but they were just, a lot of the instructors would just put me like either on the treadmill or just on the cross trainer. They actually did not know what to do with me.
Right.
They wouldn't put me on any weight machines. They wouldn't give me, you know, they just actually assumed. They didn't really talk to me about what I could and couldn't do.
Do you think they were scared?
Yeah, I do think it is that. I think I'll go on to it in a minute anyway, because I then injured I cracked a bone in my shoulder joint. And through that rehab, I met a great PT at my gym who actually got me in the gym, got me on virtually every bit of kit I was physically able to get on. Obviously, there's going to be some kit that I can't do, but he looked at what I could do, not what I couldn't do. And
so was that a PT, personal trainer, or physiotherapist you had?
PT. So the physio recommended that I go in the gym, and this PT did rehab. So
because sometimes people call physiotherapists PT, sometimes they call personal trainers PT. But it was,
I find in America they call physios PTs.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's more of an American thing. So I found. So, and I just got talking to him one day, and he goes, "Yo, why don't you do this as your job? You've got so much passion for it." And I said, "Well, I do. I worked to train to be a Simba instructor about 2 years before, but like the guy that I was with then put me off doing it. He said that I couldn't do it because of my disability. And
you said you couldn't do it?
My ex-boyfriend.
Oh.
And then obviously I left him, and this happened after. And then he goes, no, you should really, he goes, you could inspire so many disabled people to do it. Then I asked him what I would need, like qualification wise. I said, though I could just do the Simba course, I want to be qualified before I do it. I want to do it the correct way, not going in backwards and doing the opposite way around. So he told me what qualifications I would need. So I Googled he said like level 2 gym, level 3 exercise and disability. So I Googled it, and instructability was the first thing that came up. And they train disabled people up to become instructors. And they're funded by Sport England as well. And I just thought, this is too good. As you do, Pearl, I thought, free training, this is a scam, this is real. And then I put it off, took it in the gym, and my PT goes, no, it's real. The gym manager was sat there and he said, no, that is kosher. That's right. The Spire's like the biggest spinal cord injury charity in the UK. They're massive. They've got a massive gym at the head office. That is Way Up So Fit are like one of the biggest training providers in the UK. That is all kosher. Apply for it. So they were both were telling me to apply, and I did. And obviously I got on the course, and then I trained, and not looked back really. It's been that was 7 years ago this month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's just amazing. It's so, it's so just amazing. And I love the way, the joy that you have when you speak about it. It's amazing.
And I've always had, though I've had some negatives, like most of my journey has been positive. I have had some negatives, but I find the negatives are from more the smaller gyms where the studio coordinators are so uneducated about disability. Like they won't have me cover or teach there because they know I'm disabled. They don't actually get me in. They don't actually see me teach a class. They make the assumptions without knowing me. Yeah. And they shouldn't do that, because the gyms that I'm at, like I've been at one at the nearest other councils. I'm in Swindon, so you've got Swindon Council, we also got Wiltshire Council, so I teach at Wiltshire Council, and I've been there 6 years. Mm. And I had the same class for 6 years non-stop.
Just, for those who don't know, fitness years for teachers are like dog years. If you can teach a class in a gym for 1 year, that's like 7 years in any other job.
Yeah.
I always say that, like, I think I ran my business, my Zumba business full time for about 6 years before I took a break and did something else. So I said, well, that's 42 years in the business. So you're 49 years.
And it's like, and I'm one of the busiest classes there. My class is one of the most popular classes, and I go back in 2 weeks' time, and I'm actually on a timetable, and it's a very reduced timetable. They've got about 7 classes on that timetable, and I'm one of those 7 classes, and I'm like, that says something, that those that don't have me, it shows them up.
I think it's about, what's the word? About evolution, about evolving our understanding of, and it's like everything that we do, we're kind of like opening things up and saying, well, hang on a second, we don't need to have stereotypical role models the whole time. And to have a broader range of role models, it's funny because I always say, like, my brother is like my hero. He's my greatest role model. Because seeing how somebody handles a disability is very humbling. But it's, it's the reality of it. And it's the reality that we all have to deal with at some time, because we are all going to have to deal with illness or
aging.
Well, exactly. My grandma was very reticent. I always say this, sorry, Grandma, but she was very reticent to get her disabled badge, for parking, because she's disabled as a result of aging. and she was very reticent. And I always say to her, Grandma, take any perk you can get. You know, if you are classified as disabled, take every perk that you can get, because
Yeah.
people will park in your spot, and they will park on the double yellow lines, and they ain't disabled. So you just, you know, life is difficult enough that any little thing that you can get that makes it easier, never ever, like you say, getting that free training, you know, absolutely, because not only is it brilliant for you and your health and fitness and your practice and your career, you become such a fantastic role model, you know, that we need in our communities and in our society as a whole.
Exactly. It's like my mum. I've got a day job where I work with like those are disabled and vulnerable groups across our local community, and my manager says that I got to really empathise with me because I'm going through what they're going through. So I can and I can talk to them in the way that they want to be spoken to, because I don't think about, oh, is this right, is this wrong? I just come out with it.
Yeah, totally.
And sometimes, if you're able-bodied, they might go, oh, should I say that? Or will it come across the wrong way? And it's funny because like, I do like exercise referral, like rehab stuff. And the older generation, I love them because they just so upfront. And they'll say to me, what have you got? What's wrong with you? But I love it because they just ask, but their way of asking me, but they don't know how to word it. But I'm actually rather than do that and not ask.
See, my brother and I are kind of the other way. It's like he really likes it if people don't ask, you know, because again, it's like, well, it's just something about you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like my disabled kids, and I'm in school, so I just go, you walk funny. Why do you walk funny?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just a different way that they ask, and I'm always honest with them.
But I think the thing is, it's like, you know, I love the way young kids are, and you're right. They, you know, it's so lovely when they're so open and open-hearted that they can just ask questions from a point of like pure curiosity, you know. And I suppose the thing for me, I feel like when people ask about, you know, I feel like almost they're trying to put someone in a box, which is a different way of like questioning. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it just really comes from the intention of the question, really.
Yeah.
You know, because yeah, and it's so funny. So I think we forgot to finish saying how you adapted during lockdown, and because you went online, you started teaching more classes.
So yeah, so I did it the first week. I did like a trial week. Just I tested out different platforms. So I tested out Skype. I tested out Zoom just to see which one was the best one, from not just for me but for my ladies accessing it. And I soon worked out Skype. I just couldn't get on with it. They couldn't really see me. I was really tiny on their screen, and we just couldn't get over it. Whereas Zoom was absolutely brilliant, and I could spotlight myself if I needed to. So it's really good that way. And so we all agreed that I would do Zoom. Some of my ladies helped to pay for me to upgrade for the pro version, so they helped cover. I did it. I had like a 50% off code which I used. So I did the year version.
Okay.
So they actually pay for most of that. So they all put like £5 in each to help cover it, which really helped me out because obviously I couldn't charge for a full rate on Zoom because they're not getting the same experience. You know what I mean? They're having technology issues. You know, they're not getting that. They're getting some interaction, but it's not. You know this, Pearl. It's not the same interaction on a computer screen. The music might go up and down. You know, we all know the issues that we've all had teaching online.
Yeah, because there was a huge debate, and actually it was a very angry debate within the Zumba community, and I think within the wider community as well, about whether or not people, fitness instructors, yoga instructors, were going to charge for classes. And you know, again, it was one of these debates that really raged, didn't it?
It did, and what I found is that I had to charge. I've got license fees to pay. I don't just teach Zumba. I do cover size. I do Rockbox. I have my insurance renewal, my PPL renewal. It all came at once. So when I put on about my charges, I actually said that I have to charge because I need to pay for all these outgoings, which they don't actually know about.
Yeah.
A participant does not know about all our outgoings every month.
No.
And that's what they don't understand. And even then, like, I know some instructors that have full-time jobs and it was like their hobby job, that they would do it for free, but it's not their full-time job. When it's your full-time job, you have to charge. You've got no other money coming in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like me, I'm 50-50, but because I'm more employed than self-employed, and some gyms didn't follow me, come a casual, I couldn't apply for the self-help government loan. So I didn't qualify for it. So I'm still down. Though I'm more employed, I'm still down. And people don't see that. And sometimes it's annoying me when I go into local groups and there's people asking for free classes. And actually in this one, loads of local instructors actually commented saying about all the outgoings.
Yeah.
And saying, oh, we this is our job. We're not doing this for the fun of it. We are actually working. It is our paid job. It's like you going to work and getting paid. This is how we get paid.
Yeah.
So we have to charge. And then some of them actually understood the reasons why. But and also because like the likes of Joe Wicks, who I'm not a big fan of, but because he's not qualified to work with kids, but he was getting paid a lot more than he's saying he's getting paid because of the advertising on YouTube and how YouTube works. But they started free, and other stars were doing it for free. They expected everyone to do it for free.
Yeah, I just want to say, obviously, if you just so I don't get sued by Joe Wicks, we don't, obviously there's always a lot of things that people say and a lot of stuff online. But having said that, it's very difficult if your work is supporting a certain community, and as you say, people come in and it's kind of like, okay, we can do this virtually, we can do it online. So people are stepping into a space, and it's not the same as having somebody like you who's got that experience, the background, and the training and all those kind of things.
Also, with like Zoom, you'll get the people on Zoom are getting your feedback. So if they're doing something wrong, or they're doing a technique wrong, you're correcting them. Whereas if it's the wrong way on YouTube and you do something wrong, you can't do nothing about it because there's no comeback, if you know what I mean by that, because they can't be corrected.
Yeah, and I think the thing is like you say, when that happened, what also happened was that somebody else was stepping in and taking over your role, taking over your job. So, yeah. And that was a very, I think it sounded like it was very painful for you at that time.
It's the fact that
so much.
It's the fact that he's done a great job of getting fitness out there. Don't get me wrong, he's done a great job at that. Apart from the fact that everyone is going to him to work out, not their local instructors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's all these local instructors nationwide that were trying to get their business online. Some were struggling to get online because not all their members could actually get online, so their numbers dropped. And a lot of the ones that dropped were doing his for free. And only his for free.
Yeah, I mean, I offered from the get-go. I gut reaction to the announcement from Zumba that we could go online was I was going to run pay what you can when you can classes.
Yeah.
And that's worked extremely well for me because I'm working with people who were my clients a few years ago, and I like the fact that they basically just always pay what's recommended. But if they're having a difficult week, and sometimes people forget and there's a lot going on in their lives, I don't feel like I have to chase them, you know.
I'm the same. I don't chase my ladies. They pay it when they can pay it, and I've always said to them, look, if you lose your job or you can't pay, don't think you can't do class. She goes, just tell me and I will be reasonable. I'm not just going to say, oh, you can't do the class. If you're honest with me, and some of my ladies, they pay me at the end of the month, some pay me at the start of the month, and it's just different, but they all pay.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's just that mutual agreement that I'm not going to chase them for it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's more like what's the word? Like an honesty. What do you call, like an honesty bar that you have in some great hotels? They have a bar and they have an honesty bar, and you go and help yourself to some beers, and then when you check out, you know, you make sure you kind of add a bit on for the beers. You know? Yeah. But I think people forget, and it's one of those things that I actually pointed out when we were having this big discussion, huge social media. And actually what I loved is that the heads of Zumba came onto that and said, guys, you are professionals, and you know, we recommend that you charge for classes. And the top people in Zumba, when they went online, they were charging for their class. They would do the first one for free and then were charging for classes. And one of the points that I made when we were going on there is that actually when I was teaching a lot of people in wheelchairs or in chair classes, we had a very reduced fee, but everybody paid, everybody wanted to pay. And what just really touched me so much was we had people who, because of ill health, might not have been able to come for a few weeks. And they would come in and they would come up to me and they would, after the class, they would come up and said, no, you have to take money for the whole month. And I said, but you didn't do the class, you didn't come to the class. And they said, no, but you're here all month teaching, and you know, we appreciate the fact that you're here for us and that you've got a very specific class, and you're really working for us, you're working really hard for us. And you know, I want you to have this money because I missed the class, but you were still here teaching. And I think it's actually a level of respect in terms of, in giving I receive and receiving I give, to accept money from people, and you know, not to assume that somebody's disabled and they can't pay, or somebody's old and they don't have any money, because that's also a form of like discriminating.
That's a big. Yeah. And I've actually attracted a lot more disabled people being online, because I'm in a few CP groups at national, and they've always got to do my classes but can't because they're nowhere near me. But being virtual, obviously they could be anywhere and still do my class. And they all being upfront, saying, oh, how much is it? I want to pay. It's not a problem, I can pay. You know, and you should never ever judge the fact that if someone's disabled or old, that they haven't got the money, because actually the two populations that often have disposable income, because they haven't got the social life, say, as a fit, healthy person.
Because this is the thing, is that you know, with, and what I love about my class, I mean, I'm only teaching one class, but it's the social interaction, that this is the social life, you know, this is and so actually we're much cheaper than going down the pub. You know, like bargain for the interaction and having that.
And all my ladies, I've said that, they've all said that I've helped them get through the lockdown. Some of them have been shielding. I've actually helped them get through that 3 or 4 months that they've been shielding. So I've really helped them to get through it. Especially some have been working from home. And one of my gym ladies found me through advertising a local free for sale group. And she saw me in there and she messaged me going, oh my God, I'm so glad that you posted, I found you. And oh my God, it's a lifesaver. And it's like the 3rd week in, I'm doing my nutting, I can't exercise. And she actually was thankful that I went online.
Yeah. And
they've been thankful. They're always telling me that how, if they know that I can get down, or I'm like, oh God, I got computer issues and my laptop's played up a few times during the last 3 months, it's never been used so much in its life. So they've all understood, they've all even told me to take days off so that I can have a rest myself.
Aww.
And that's so nice to see, because they know that I'm doing it for them, but they also know I'm doing it for myself, for my own mental health, for my own sanity, because it's what I love and it's what keeps me sane. But it's also the social interaction, because not all my friends have done like Zoom chats or the meetups that the other friendship groups have done. So I've not had a lot of interaction with my own friends. So for me, it's been great, because it's given me the interaction that I really need with other people.
Absolutely. And do you find, I mean, I know I found very much that when I have my Monday morning class, I always find that's the morning when I kind of feel a bit like, ugh. And I think, I don't know whether it's because it's Monday morning or it's because I just know, like, in a way, like, I sort of give up a bit and my body goes, right, yeah, you can be a bit grumpy this morning because Zumba's in like 2 hours. And then, like, when you switch it on and everyone's there, you kind of, you know, you just automatically start being more positive, and then the music comes on.
And even more.
Yeah, but by the end of it, it's like, wow, that was great. I feel brilliant. You know, do you get mornings like that? Do you get days like that?
Yeah, and like, especially when I'm being like working my day job in the day, and I've got to like teach it, because I've been sat down one day, and I'm not used to that. I'm in a very active role, so I've gone from being a sports coach to sat down and working, which is like a complete opposite of what I know. And then I got to get up, and I'm like, oh god, I got to go upstairs now and teach. And I go, oh god, do I have to go up and teach now? But then as soon as you log in, and then they come on screen and they're like, hi, you're like, you sort of, you get lifted yourself.
Yeah.
And then once the music comes on, I just get lost in the music.
Totally.
And because I'm getting on my regulars, I don't have to teach as much, because they know the routines. And they've asked me not to teach. They've asked me not to change the routines online, because it's harder for them to learn. Yeah. And also, like, I'm so small, and some of them are using iPads or phones, so I'm quite small. So I've agreed that I would I said I might do 1 or 2 new ones in, depending on how long it goes on for. But I sort of said that I'd keep it the same, so that they don't have to like go like that at the screen when I'm doing a new one.
Squint at the screen, yeah. I mean, do you know what I found? I was so lucky, because because I wasn't teaching and I was struggling with my own fitness a little bit before lockdown. One of the things I was doing, because I moved around, was I was doing all my Zumba instructor DVDs and volumes on my laptop. So I was doing the class as a participant on the laptop in this space. So I had been doing that for a couple of months. And so I actually, it was really good, because I had an awareness of how difficult it was to follow, because I'm going, what are they doing? You know, and that choreography that they were sending us was designed for a normal class, you know, like a live class. And I would go, what are they doing? What are they doing? You know, so I kind of had an understanding that it was more difficult, and I had an understanding of this space as well. So I think that was really good for me, because it was almost like I'd been on the receiving end of virtual classes for several months. And so it was actually, you know, really, really useful. But again, one of the things, you know, that we've learned through teaching Zumba Gold and, you know, teaching people with different abilities is adapt.
And it's, because like I changed, this is the music licensing, and obviously I changed I used Zumba proper true license free Zumba music. So I changed my whole Zumba class at the start of lockdown. I pre-warned them, they were happy with it, and I hadn't changed any songs before that since last year, so I actually think they were quite glad. And they picked it up in a couple of weeks, but when I was choreographing them, I was thinking about the space that I had here to teach, how they were going to watch me, and I kept it quite simple. I was only moving either side to side or forward and back quite a bit on the spot, because obviously that's a lot easier. I then noticed that because in class, if they're coming forward, I always walk back because they're mirroring me. So I still kept that because they're used to that. But what I did was, if I was going sideways, sometimes I'd do it at an angle so that they could actually see me better.
Yeah.
If you do it at an angle, it's like a straight line for them. If I'm going like a straight line, they're like, "What are you doing?" Yeah. It's how they perceive what you're doing on the screen.
It's really just to catch up for the audience. In terms of music licensing, it is such a big subject, you know, and I'm not going to get into on this. But just what you're explaining is that we were given by Zumba a selection of music that they had already pre-cleared. You know, they'd given us permission to teach that music on ZinStudio and pre-record, so we could record the classes and things. It's very complicated. Just so if you don't understand, it's okay, because we understand it moment to moment, and then it will changes again. So
and it changes every week with music licensing.
Oh,
so.
It's a tough business. It's a really tough part of it, I think.
And even like PPL have changed their terms and conditions on their website, and I hadn't told anyone. It's just been snuck in there, and
it's like the coronavirus guidelines.
Yeah.
It changes all the time.
It's like PPL realised that they're losing a lot of money because we couldn't use our PPL license online, and then suddenly they changed it to say we could, but technically we couldn't, and they didn't tell anyone. So it's always confusion, and I just kept it that I just use license free music, or my fit let's play music for club size and whatnot. I know that's covered by them, so that's what I do.
But it's a very, I'm always saying not a lot about music, but it's an interesting point, because this is usually the answer to most of the questions that we get about why don't you do it this way, why don't you do that, why don't you do Zumba this way, why don't you do it on YouTube, why don't you do it on Facebook, why don't you do it on Instagram, why don't you do this? And that is because of the music licensing.
And yeah,
legal to do that.
And also the Zumba license, obviously Zumba has said we can go online, but we're not allowed to have it left there. So we're allowed to have it on, like, say, a platform like Zoom, because it's not recorded and it doesn't stay anywhere. And we were only allowed pre-record on the ZinStudio.